Okay, for those of you who are a couple minutes early, welcome. I decided to mute everybody today. I'll go through the presentation, but I certainly wanted to let you know, pop questions in the chat. I'll address them at the end. If you want to come on camera, you can at that point. I'll open up the cameras and the mics. Just never sure how big the group's going to be. And if there's a lot of people who are unmuted, it gets a little distracting. So, but I do want to engage you. So add any questions in the chat. I've put a bunch of links in there if you want to learn more about the training. I'm going to only train one piece of the 5 pieces today, but I believe it's the most important. So I'm going to give a couple more minutes here and let people join as we are constantly seeing people join the group here. So admit. And we'll start in about 2 minutes. I see some familiar names. Thanks for joining. Daryl, Eddie, Michael, Steve, Bryson. If you want to put in the chat where you're from, that'd be cool. And again, sorry for muting everybody. I will absolutely open it up at the end when I'm done. I figure I'll take about 30 minutes and then take some questions and answers. Eddie, nice to see your smiling face, man. I know you're muted, but nice to see you there. Tony, Wes, oh, I've got some of my past clients on this call. I don't know if that means I didn't do a good job the first time and you're all back to learn again, or you were so impacted you want to do it again. So, and again, please don't worry, I'm going to unmute everybody at the end. We'll give it another minute. Everybody put in their credit card information for this. I'm teasing, I'm teasing, I'm teasing. Okay, again, so if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat. And when I'm done, I'll address each and every one. And I'll bring everybody unmuted and feel free to come up and ask that question in person or respond when I give my response. Greetings from sunny Muskoka. Steve, you are just down the road, my friend, to sunny Wasaga Beach. I can almost see you about an hour away here. Okay. All right, well, let's get going. It's 12 o'clock. So for those of you who don't know me, I'll give you a little introduction. I'll speak briefly about my background, just so you have an awareness of where I'm coming from and that I do have some experience in this sales world that you've all jumped into today. And again, as I mentioned earlier, great to see some past clients here on this call today. But I do a 5-step sales training when I go into organizations. And what I realized is, yeah, I'm getting corporate clients, but there's a bunch of guys and gals out there who are selling every day and getting hung up on and not getting voicemails returned and not getting people responding to their emails, because we've all been there and gone through it. And I thought, how do I get to people more quickly? I built an online training course that I won't push today, just as an FYI, but I did it because I felt like I can reach more people and give you some tools to succeed, because I've used them in other organizations and they've worked. I built these training programs now for my clients as a consultant, but when I was a president, a VP, a director, a manager, these are all things I've been building for 20 years, and I thought it might help you grow your business today. So thought I'd share the first of 5 steps. And again, the reason I share the first one is, to me, it's the one sales professionals, we just aren't doing enough. And the biggest tip that I'll give you today before I start, don't sell the way you don't want to be sold to. You know, you send a blast email out, but when you get that blast email, what do? You delete it. And when you get that unwarranted connection on LinkedIn, what do? You don't connect with them. And so we've got to take that to the next level. So we sell the way we'd like to be approached. And that comes from trust. And I'm going to dive a little deep on that first step, because again, of the 5, I think it's the biggest impact one today. So who am I? For those of you who haven't met me, and again, this will be about a half an hour, not my introduction. The training will be a half an hour today. A little bit of background. Guys and gals, I started at McDonald's shaking fries. That was my beginning. So I've got a background in upselling with that hot apple pie to go with your meal or that larger drink. That's where it all started. And then I moved across stores in the mall to a Champ Sports, where I was in the stock room, shifting shoes and folding t-shirts and just dying to get on the sales floor and talk to people. Got that opportunity, and my sales career started from there, selling Air Jordans. Oh my gosh, 30 years ago now. I'm aging myself. And from there, I really grew the passion of driving sales and results because I was competitive, but also seeing people smile when I was done, that I sold them what they needed. And wow, the better I did that and connected with people, the better my results were and the more repeat customers I had. And as I grew my career from responsible for selling to responsible for others who sell, I wanted to transfer those skills. So, I went from the sales floor to a key holder, to an assistant manager, to a store manager at Champs, to an area manager. For those of you who are from Canada, TELUS Mobility, which is one of our 3 big wireless carriers here. I oversaw all their corporate stores in Ontario and Manitoba. And then as a Montreal Canadiens fan, I decided to go work for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which made no sense, but I did it anyways for about 5 years. And I went in there as the director of consumer products, which meant their retail sales, both in arena and online, their catalog. And then of course, every concert that came in was a new sales event for that band in all of our points of distribution in the building. And always wanting to learn and grow, I went on and I opened BMO Field, the soccer stadium, as the general manager in Toronto, and was accountable for all the sales operations within the facility and the customer operations within the facility. And then continuing to grow, I went on to be a VP of sales and marketing at a company called The Printing House. So that was in the B2B world. We had 70 branches across the country, from Halifax to Vancouver, and 10,000 business accounts. So I can tell you these things work in B2C and B2B that I'm going to share today. And then I moved on to the construction world. And for about 6 years, I was the vice president of sales and client services at a company called Fusion Homes. Yes, IT was part of the title, but I try not to mention it because I can't even turn on my own computer. That was a weird one. And then I became president of a home building company called Dunstar Developments. And then when the pandemic hit, I started this, my true passion of my own business. And if you're into leadership as much as sales, FYI, I wrote this little book. It's on Amazon called The 50-Year-Old Millennium. So that's enough about me, but that'll give you a little background so you know I've been there. I feel it. I know what the rejection feels like. I know what having to come in and do the same job every day feels like. And so I've built this training to not only make it impactful that you can drive results, but you can have fun and be proud about your profession as you do it. So, little Zig Ziglar comment here that I love from a sales perspective. If people like you, they'll listen to you, but if they trust you, they'll do business with you. Why that resonates so much for me in this training that I've built is, sales professionals, we're all in sales, I'm assuming, but if you ask someone who's not in sales, they would tell you, well, you got to be good with people, and it's always showtime, and you've got to be on, and you've got to be the type of person who captures the audience. It's all true, it's important, but the most successful people I have found in sales on my teams are the ones who are able to build trust. And the best way you build trust is not to be the showman and wow people with your presentation. It's actually to know your audience. Know who you're selling to before you walk in the door. And that sounds simple. And you're like, okay, Mark, yeah, no kidding. I've got to know that I'm selling to Acme Widget Company. Do you know anything about the decision maker? Do you know anything about the company's business initiatives? Do you know what their value equation is so you can match it to yours? Those are the things that you need to do before you ever walk in the door. And that is what I'm going to focus on today. Okay, so in this 5-step sales process that I've built, and again today, big, bold, yellow, right? What we're going to focus on today is researching and connecting and the behaviors behind it. You start with researching and connecting with the potential prospect. And then as you get that trust, you're going to start to gather needs, share ideas, and differentiate your offering. I've built something I call a boomerang fact. And a boomerang, when you think about it, for those of you from Australia, that was supposed to be an Australian accent. It was terrible. I apologize now. But if you know how to throw a boomerang properly, it always comes back to you. And so what's your offering that as your prospects are going to shop other competitors and consider other people, because it happens, especially in today's day and age with the internet, what do you lay in that conversation that forces them to come back? And I help people understand what the boomerang fact is. So for a home builder in the province of Ontario, if you've won a Tarion Award, there's only one builder of your size who can win that. And if you've won 6, that's going to be a boomerang fact. And the way you're going to position that is, how important is quality to you? Well, of course, quality in my home is important. Okay, have you heard of a Tarion Award? Now, when they go to that next sales center to consider buying a home and they say, how many Tarion Awards have you won? Boom, none, because you're the only one who's won it the last 6 years. You got to uncover what your boomerang facts are. That's in step number 2. Step number 3, we get commitment to meet and to clarify those needs and position the value statement. Step number 4 is, how do we confirm they're ready to move forward, the soft close, and build value on the offering so you actually prevent your business being stolen before anyone calls, because they're going to do the same thing you're doing today. So how do we retain them while we're selling? And then lastly, I teach about overcoming objections. And that behavior can be used anywhere in the process. But again, we're going to dive through number 1 today. So when we approach a prospective customer on our first visit, either into their offices or in our offices or on the phone or online, the first thing we need to do is establish some type of rapport to connect with that client. Not rocket science for anyone on this call. But the way we do that is by knowing a little bit about them and their business before reaching out. Most sales professionals actually don't do this. And for those who are doing it, they're not doing it well. I'm going to share with you why this can have such an impact and what the behaviors are actually to do it. I'm going to leave you with a little exercise that you can take away, and it is literally going to open up your eyes to the way you're approaching your consumers. I have multiple people on this call from a past client who saw that sales success. And guys, thank you for Titanium that are here today. I didn't even know you were coming. Appreciate you being here. You guys rock, and you're creating great results with these behaviors. Number 1, okay, so there's 3 steps in this first behavior of connecting and researching your client. So if you want to help narrow down your prospect list, because I think the only thing worse than a bad sales professional is a bad sales leader who doesn't know what the job is, and you want to narrow down that list of unqualified prospects, get used to this behavior of understanding whether you're a fit before you ever pick up the phone. It's going to give you 2 things. It's going to let you narrow that list down, but it's going to set you up for success as you reach out that first time. So think about it from the perspective of, how do you use Google? How do you go to corporate websites? How do you go to LinkedIn? How do you go to corporate social media for that prospect that's on your list and find out if you can help them with their business initiatives or their individual initiatives before you ever pick up the phone? And again, I'm going to dive deep in this stuff here in a couple minutes. So bear with me and I'll give you some examples. Number 2, again, if any of you have been on sales training, this one isn't rocket science, but how often do we open up with non-selling related questions? Okay, and non-selling related questions are questions that are open-ended. They can't be answered with a yes or no, and they can't have anything to do with you selling your product. We're not there in the relationship yet. And so those can look like asking about their business initiatives, their promotions. Anything that's open-ended that's going to get them starting to talk is important. Yes, I have the weather and traffic and some personal stuff. You can ask all of those things to connect and open-ended, but it can't be about your business right away. So again, before we pick up that phone, let's know what we're going to talk about in the context of their needs, personalized for them. Then let's open that dialogue with open-ended questions about them and their initiatives. And then lastly, what I'm going to share is, how do you get their commitment to say yes to gaining more time? How do you get them excited? How do you ask open-ended questions to get the commitment that will allow you to dive deeper and more targeted? I use a silly example here. Susie, I'm really excited about a service we can provide that would really fit your business initiatives. And then you put in the piece about what that was from your research. So let me give you a past example from my printing days. And maybe I'll use a Titanium one here in a bit. But from my printing days, when I was the VP of Sales and Marketing at the printing house, we had this network of 70 locations, okay? And so when you think about commercial printing, most organizations find a big shop in Toronto and they'll ship across the country to all their points of distribution, their window signage, their large format signage, whatever that looks like. Now, the printing house has the ability with 70 branches across the country to take your digital file and move it digitally to a location that's 5 minutes from your regional office, saving you all that cost on shipping and getting it there quicker while allowing you to be in control of the marketing here in your head office in Toronto. Doing that research that says, hey, Bank of Montreal is opening 10 more branches in Vancouver. Now that I know that, I'm going to reach out to the marketing manager, Susie, and say, I was doing a little research before I ever call, because I wouldn't waste your time or mine. I noticed that you guys are penetrating on the West Coast. And I'm curious how you're going to manage your printing in that location by protecting your brand and reducing your cost. We have a branch in Vancouver that's 5 minutes from those 10 bank branches that you're about to open. And by the way, I have 6 branches in Vancouver. And so I can allow you to have marketing control, save all the time on shipping, and save all that cost. I can have it at the branch in 5 minutes. We can walk it over. Now, what would that look like for someone who didn't do the research? Hi, it's Mark from the printing house. We do printing and we do large format. I know the Bank of Montreal does that. Can we help you in any way? And that's the way we sell. But if we customize the approach, now we get the attention of the prospect because we can demonstrate we know their business needs. So the reason I share this one today for free is this is the biggest one. This is the one that people aren't doing. And it's getting worse. And Ron Tite, if anybody knows Ron Tite, he's brilliant. He's funny. He's a marketer. He owns a firm called Church and State. He talks about the pitch slap. Our prospects are tired of being pitch slapped because we're getting inundated with emails that are clearly mass emails or phone calls that show you don't know me, and we're becoming more and more resistant to being open to the conversation. And that's a struggle we're all having as sales professionals, is no one wants to talk to us anymore. Pardon my language, but no effing kidding. Because all you're calling me for is to sell me your shit. Help me with my business problem, demonstrate that's why you're here on this call, and maybe, just maybe, I'll open that window. And you can do that via email, you can do it over the phone, you can do it via social media, and I'll talk a little deeper about all those. Okay, so here's what I want you to think of, and clearly as a group here on a Zoom call, we're not going to do this exercise, but what I'd like you to do is when you leave this call, what are all the ways you can find out about a prospect's business and the prospect themselves? Let me give you a head start. If you're going to pick up the phone and you have not at least Googled the decision maker or the company, please don't pick up the phone. You have nothing to talk about other than yourself. And people don't want to be sold that way. So start with Google. The next place you can go that is safe. Okay, and I tease, and the guys from TTGI will remember this. Go to social media, but go to the corporate sites. Okay, you can go to someone's LinkedIn profile to learn about them. That's fair game. It's a professional public site. You can go to the company and find out about their LinkedIn profile. You can go to their professional Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. Don't call a prospect and say, hey, I was doing some research, Jim. How was little Gina's dance recital on Saturday? No, do not go there. But you could say, hey, Jim, I was doing some research on your company because I work like businesses like yours. But before I get into that, you went to USC, man. So did I. Go Gamecocks. That is okay. That is in a professional environment where people want you to know about them. So Google first, corporate websites. LinkedIn is a gold mine if you use it right, but LinkedIn could be blowing up in your face today. If you are sending generated connections on LinkedIn, you are doing more damage than good. Yes, it's easy to send out 10,000 and convert 1% of those, but you're damaging your brand as you do it. You're better to narrow that list and reach out to 100 people and convert 10 of them. Because no one in LinkedIn wants to be solicited if you don't know anything about them. You're not even going to get through that gate. So having said that, LinkedIn, corporate social media, websites, my apologies, Google. And what are we looking for? We're looking for 1 to 3 facts. that we can bring up in that phone call to show that client that we did the common courtesy about finding about them and their business first, and that you can speak to. So for a decision maker, what's their role? What are their responsibilities? What's their history? What are they accountable for every day? For a company, what are some of their business initiatives? What are their vision and values? There's a gentleman who's not on the call that I tell this story about a lot, who's a past prospect. We were in the middle of a corporate training, and he'd been trying to get through this one organization called Costco here in Canada that's big. And he hadn't been able to even get a phone call in 2 years. And we talked about this. Hey, hold on, go out and find what's important to them. He went to their website, looked at it completely differently, left a voice message that said, hey, I've been trying to reach through to you. I'm following up. I noticed on your website X, and I won't reveal their proprietary information here. One, because they're on the call, and two, I'd never do that. But he found that connection point, and in the middle of the training came back to me and said, I can't believe this. I have a meeting for the first time in 2 years in trying. And I'd always been approaching them by selling them on our miles. Our cost per mile in logistics service was cheaper or competitive. And what I sold them on was actually that software technology that we have that allows them to know where their truck is within 8 meters at all times. And the reason I did that was on their website, they talk about how important in and out logistics was for them, and how Costco was about getting inventory in and out quickly and managing costs as they do that. But that's not how that individual was showing up before. It was like, hey, we're a trucking company. We're really good. We can provide great rates. So is everybody else. And the minute you turn it into the customer's problem and solving their business solution, the more attention you're going to get. So use all those avenues, keep those. What I normally do is I keep 1 to 3 notes about the decision maker and about the company. And then what I write down in my 3rd column cheat sheet is what I call the value equation, quality and service over price. And I demonstrate based on their needs where I can provide quality if that's what I saw on their website. So for them, it might be, let's pick a different provider. Let's pick a different company I've worked with even most recently. Okay, let's use ViewCube Vision Eye Therapy that's got 2 clinics in Guelph and North York. For them, it's all about the quality of the experience. And when I was training them, I was talking about using what their process was. What does that look like to ensure a client doesn't get into vision therapy and they understand the quality they're going to get first? And that was all about these tests that they do in a visual skills assessment. And so what they were doing was finding out that the patient had a past experience of being pushed into programming that they didn't need, and we had a competitive advantage around quality. That came out of a conversation, not of a website research. So again, that's just to show you how it's applicable in B2C. But find out about the buyer, find out about the company, and then demonstrate where you can provide quality and service to solve that need. Go to price last. Racing to the bottom on price, only one company could win. And the reason companies do that is they can't justify the quality and the service the client values for the price they're charging. Okay, so that's where you do all that research, you keep those notes. Then I'd ask you to take away, start thinking about asking some cool open-ended non-selling questions. And I always write down one based on the research that I've done on those 3 things on the buyer. Again, I'm a sports guy, so if I see something in sports, I lean to that. I'm also a business guy, so if I see they've done something great, like spoke at a conference and it's on their LinkedIn profile, I'll speak to that and ask, hey, how did you get that speaking opportunity at the Ontario Home Builders Association? I watched a video, fantastic. How'd you get that? Open-ended dialogue starts, right? And if you're not researching the client, you don't have any of that, you show up saying, I got some stuff to sell you. You're gonna have to make a lot of those calls for it to work. Lastly, I think you should all do this, even if you do this prospecting piece really well. I want you to write down 3 prospects that you've wanted to get. They could be new, they could be older, 3 companies or 3 clients that you've really wanted to work with. Don't cheat, don't do any of this stuff I talked about. Just write down what you know about them. Write down on one piece of paper what you know about them. Then I want you to go back with those same 3 prospects, and I want you to research where they're at on LinkedIn. I want you to research the company and the decision maker. I want you to put them into Google. I want you to go to their corporate social media websites and list what you know about them now. This always blows the mind of every group I train. Like, I feel like I've known this person for 18 months. I've called them 15 times. I had no idea we went to the same school. I had no idea my best friend's their vice president. I had no idea that they're expanding right in the area that we're expanding. I had no idea that they had green initiatives that were important to them, and we have green initiatives that could help them. And the things you learn by doing that research, if you just do this exercise, I'll never have to sell you on the value of doing this stuff. It will blow your mind on what you'll have to talk about. Your only challenge now is, what am I picking? What am I most comfortable to talk about where I can add some value in their life and their business based on what I know about them? So take that away and do that with 3 prospects, 1 blind and 1 going through the things I've talked about today. Okay, I always ask this question in training groups, and it's okay. Most people still haven't been introduced to it, so I'll take you through this and why. The value statement. Okay, and ignore here the key to closing, because this is from later on in the presentation, but it's really important as you're connecting. So the faster you can find out what the client values, the higher success rate you'll be getting in getting that meeting or that return phone call. So how do you go through all that research and find out what they value when it comes to quality? Find out what they value when it comes to service. You know, you may be selling rates per mile, but really what they want to know is, where are all your distribution centers in North America? Where are your stops? How easily can someone get across the border to ship my product into the US? What's your infrastructure look like? How do I know where my shipments are so I can manage my staffing costs? All those different things are things you're going to find by researching and having the dialogue. The faster you can position value versus price, the more successful you will be. So I'll give you a perfect example with me, guys. Full transparency. I'm doing this little teaser not to actually get more corporate training, because that's gone well for me and always has. You get me in a room, people seem to find value in it, which is great. But I want to drive these online courses because I want more people to have access to it, and they're not paying my hourly rate of $450 now an hour to get me in front of a group. You can go and buy it yourself for $149. But here's where I'm dealing with people reaching out to me, right? So they see my stuff and they're like, I get the LinkedIn messages just like you guys probably all do. Hey, we have the greatest lead generating system that can get you 10,000 businesses for you to go because we see you're in coaching. Okay, that is 9.5 out of 10 calls that I get every day from someone trying to help me build my coaching business. I'm no different than anyone else on this call. All they have to do is look at 1 or 2 of my LinkedIn posts, and they will see I am clearly trying to reach more people and drive online training. So if someone called me and said, or reached out on LinkedIn and said, Mark, I've been following your stuff, love your website at markpettipaw.com, cool videos. I noticed that you're trying to drive online training versus your corporate business right now. I've got a tool that will help you reach more sales professionals because I know you're passionate about that. Are you open to a conversation? Why hasn't anyone called me and asked me that? They have my business. I'm willing to spend money. Now, young lady named Allison who did, and she's killing it for me now, but she reached out with that context of what I do and what I valued. And what I value is reaching more people so it can actually not improve your living, guys, please don't take that the wrong way, but improve the experience we're all putting our customers through. Because we're putting people on the phones who aren't equipped to do so. So if I can give people the skills to do that well, customers will be sold what they need by the right person at all times. And I do the same thing on the leadership front, because we're promoting people into positions of leadership that don't have the skills, and it's really hurting mental health in this country. And that's my desired state there. All anyone has to do is read one of my 1,000 posts on LinkedIn about it, because I have social media diarrhea. I hold it all back and then I let it all out at once, and I'll do 15 posts. But if you pay any attention to me and call me, you will get a sales call with me any day of the week. But we're not selling that way. So it just takes a little more work on the front end to generate more profitable results on the back end. Okay, that was 26 minutes of one step. This normally takes about an hour to an hour and a half in a training session, and I've got 5 of these steps, but we're not doing the exercises, which usually take 25 to 30 minutes each and go around the group and report out. So what I'd love to do is take some questions and some answers if you have, give some answers and take some questions if you have them. I'll unmute everybody and take off your cameras if you're not already showing up on the camera. But I've put this information in the chat. If you are interested, bear with me on my only sales pitch of the day. You can find this course on Udemy, or Udemy, I think is the way you pronounce it. I've got my leadership and my sales training there. So just go to that site, put in my name. You can go to my direct training site, which is my platform at myfullname.podia.com. And you can check out my corporate website if you've got a corporate group you want me to talk with. But enough of that sales push on my end. I want to open up to some questions and some comments. So just bear with me. And I think I have to, really? Can't I just unmute everybody? Bear with me, folks. All right. Are you able to unmute yourselves? Yes?
I think I am, Mark.
All right, good, awesome. Okay, I'm going to get out of this screen and come back to there we go. All right. First of all, guys, thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. I'm going to check. Okay, in the chat, Daryl, great stuff, Mark. Do you offer support in French? Bien sûr, je suis tout à fait bilingue. Je peux le faire à 110% en français. Par contre, j'ai rien en écrit à date. J'ai pas eu de clientèle francophone, but I've trained my entire life in French and working in Quebec for 15 years. So absolutely, the answer is yes. Questions? Just go ahead and unmute yourself if you got a question. Bryson.
I have to credit you for an amazing uptick since your training at Titanium, and I think that things are going really well. What I'm kind of struggling with myself right now is getting back to prospecting because there's so much demand. I've got to figure out how to balance my schedule. So is there some kind of like challenge or something that you go to when the going gets good, but you know that there could be, we could be at the top of the roller coaster and there could be some ebbs and flows?
Yeah, so Bryson, just so I make sure I understand the question, it's about managing the workload?
Yeah, so basically I'm inundated with so many different quotes and so much activity. I've almost got very little time to go back to the prospecting side, but I subconsciously I'm always like, it could be really good right now, but yeah. I don't know if it's like I take time at night to go back and start like Googling some companies and making ideas and setting aside time. It's a struggle to figure out the prioritization on the fly. Just because it's been pretty crazy, as many of our other colleagues can attest to right now.
Yeah, I tell you, and it's a problem we all encounter at different times of the business cycle and where we're at. And you're good on you to know, yeah, it's good right now, but I'm not doing the prospecting that's going to keep it when the roller coaster goes down, right? And that's the biggest.
Yeah, yeah.
I block it. For me, I block it in my calendar. I put 3 hours a week, and I know that at times Monday morning the kids have gone to school. And I'll reach out and I actually break it down. 1 hour's LinkedIn, 1 hour's email, 1 hour's phone calls.
Okay.
But then to your earlier point, and trust me, in my leadership training, I talk about work-life balance. But for me, I find that I do a lot of my prospecting at 7 o'clock at night. So now, granted, I don't work from 4 to 7 if I'm going to do that. Kids are home from school and I have that flexibility as an entrepreneur, but where I'm suggesting is like, yeah, sometimes you got to put it outside the distracted period to get it done. But start by scheduling it. You'll find that might alleviate the stress, you're doing it. And two, when you block the time, you'll find you'll get it done.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? There's no rewards for having a question, by the way, so don't feel bad. No prizes. I got nothing to give out, just my knowledge. And that's debatable whether there's any value. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, and first of all, thanks for coming. For a lot of you, this was a surprising refresher. It's nice to see a lot of the TTGI guys here. Thanks for that. And new TTGI guys, I think. No new. I've seen you all before. But if you have any questions, just reach out. You guys know where to find me on email. You know where to find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help. Yeah, I know what you're going through, and I know when things are good, everybody loves us. And when things are bad, we start to get questioned about whether we're still hitting the phones and whether we're still prospecting. The biggest advice I'll ever give you is just stick to the behaviors and ride those waves. You know what's right, and just keep doing what's right. That's it. Short and sweet, everybody. I hope you found a lot of value in that half hour.
Thanks so much.
Take care, guys. Cheers.